Doc is back in for the latest installment of the Alvin Parker Coaches Show. I'm Sean Robertson. Great to have you with us as we talk championship weekend. We've been waiting for this weekend since our first show back in August, and it's finally here. The two teams that were predicted to be 1-2 and would face each other in Salem came out. It played out just like the conference expected it to be. Union and State will meet Saturday for everything. The CIAA championship, and more than likely get the bid into the playoffs. We got the head coach, Dr. Alvin Parker, coming off the game against State on Saturday. Man, it felt like we were in Salem a week early. Just the feel, the environment, the play, the intensity. How did you feel on the side? Did you have that feel that this was a championship game, even though it was the week before?
It was a good feeling, but to be honest, Sean, I felt like that almost every time State was playing. It's usually on Barty Street or it's down there at Rogers Stadium, and now we get to go to a neutral site and do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at the attendance when they were at our place last year, we broke a record,
mm-hmm.
and then there was a ton of people down there on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just hoping everybody packs it up and make the trip to Salem this weekend.
We hope so. And please bring a big coat because the mountains are going to be cold down there in Salem on Saturday. Final score was 35-28. Virginia State won it and got help from Livingstone on Saturday, which they needed in order to get into the championship game. But Johnson C. Smith lost. How about that? They go 7-0 or 6-0 and lose 2 straight to end the year. And they are out, and VSU and Virginia Union are in. We talked earlier this week in your media availability, and just as a man, it seemed like everybody, after dapping and playing 60 minutes of hard football, y'all just had that feeling that you guys were going to face each other again in the conference championship game.
Yeah, I mean, like we said prior to the game, we knew we were in.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have anything to do with the way we played or how anything kind of occurred. And afterwards, last year when we got the nod after the win. Coach Frazier came right across and found me and shook my hand.
Yeah, he did.
And I did the same to him this week.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good. And he said after the game, he said, let's do this again next week. Felt good about that. So, we just looking at, we knew we were in.
Yeah.
We just looking to kind of make sure, at that point, already kind of turned the page. As soon as we got on the bus to head back to Richmond, focusing on what we had to do the next week to take the bus to Salem.
Right. First time probably since the Johnson C. Smith game, if I recall correctly, you guys never led in the game. They jumped out early. You had tied it at 21. And then the big play that kind of flipped the momentum was the 3rd and 34 from their 9. They get the 91-yard touchdown to take the lead. And then you had a chance to tie it. Was it Vic? Yeah. Clear as day. Right there. It was coming right at me. And I was like, okay, it's going to be tied. And I know he felt sick on that play.
He's a big-time player, so, he's made a ton of those all year. He's had an all-CIAA type of season,
mm-hmm.
so, definitely nothing to that kid, so he's a special player for us. So, but we did have our chances, throughout, just not necessarily that one play. There's a couple plays that, you want to have back, offensively, defensively, and special teams. But that's the good thing about playing somebody back to that week. You get a chance to correct a lot of those things immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You get a chance to see some of the same exact things that you've seen before. And I'm kind of glad the way it kind of fell out, in terms of being able to play, somebody back to back. But more than that, I think, I think the format in terms of how, the CIAA wanted to do things this year in terms of no divisions, 1 through 11.
Mm-hmm.
I think that played out good because, you get an opportunity to get, throughout the season who your 2 best teams. So we feel good about that.
And that's how it played out. 2 best teams, even though we heard a lot of that stuff last week. That's all out the window. Everything played out according to how Virginia State wanted it to be, a win, and needed some help. They were able to get in. You mentioned about correcting some things. What stood out as far as things that you felt or feel need to be correctable getting ready for Saturday?
Just playing our form of football. We don't necessarily turn the ball over. We do a good job against the run. We do a good job of running. I mean, all the things that compile us playing union football.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we kind of do that, I think, we feel good about, our chances against anybody. But again, when it's a championship, you got to make sure that the emotions stay leveled, everything kind of stay where it's supposed to be, and you can keep that going. I think you give yourself a chance regardless.
Did they do anything differently than what you saw on tape?
Not really. I think they're a tough offense. They're a tough defense. So we knew that going into the game. That they were going to be tough. So I think they showed it. And like I said, go through it all and you kind of nitpick this and that. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you just had a chance, and we had chances. And not necessarily nothing they did, or something we probably more what we didn't do.
Yeah.
So, but hats off to those guys. They played a heck of a game. But again, like I said, we get to spin the block.
Yeah.
and come back and get another opportunity at it in the championship.
What was that message that you told the guys when you were in the end zone after the game?
I told them, we get a chance. Still, regardless of what happened, we got our seat in the show. We get a chance to defend our championship. Like I'll say to everybody, we're the champions till somebody else says otherwise. So we get a chance to defend our championship this Saturday, and everything that we normally do, we're doing. Checking every box every day, again like we do every week. So that's what people are gonna see from us. Hopefully, they get to see the Union team that we know we are and present that.
And it was still basically, and I think they've been doing this all year, policing themselves, kind of talking amongst each other about things that needed to be corrected. They're going to do it themselves as opposed to having you guys saying it and saying, okay, this needs to be done. You go ahead and do it.
Yeah, we definitely have a player in that bunch. So you hear all of those things and you see all of those things. And most of the time they do it before we even kind of get to them. A lot of the times. But our job is to coach them up and have them ready. Their job is to take the coaching and be ready. So I think our coaches have done a great job of doing that, and our players have done a great job of being receptive to that. So we've had a good week of championship practice as well as the championship game.
Coach is chomping at the bit right now. He wished the game was tomorrow, but it will be on Saturday when VSU and Union will meet. First time since this championship game was reinstated that the two Virginia schools, the I-95 rivalry, is heading down to I-81 and Salem, Virginia for the conference championship game. We got more to talk about involving that game in our final segment with Coach Parker. But coming up next, we're going to have a former head coach here at Virginia Union, a championship coach, Coach Joe Taylor, the current AD here at Virginia Union. We're going to talk more about some history with him and winning championships here at Virginia Union right after this.
In every athlete, there's a spark, a drive. At Virginia Union University, we turn that spark into a flame. Here, it's more than athletics. It's a journey of dedication, discipline, and determination, where Panthers chase and catch their dreams. With dedicated coaches, a legacy of champions, VUU is where potential meets opportunity. Ready to transform passion into purpose, to elevate your game in life? It's time. Join us at Virginia Union University, where champions are made on and off the field. Your future starts now. Visit VUU.edu to learn more. Virginia Union University. Ignite your potential.
Back here on the Alvin Parker Coaches Show, we'll have the coach back in our final segment to talk more about Championship Saturday between Virginia State. But right now, we always call our Players Lounge segment, but this is going to be the Coaches Lounge segment, Championship Edition. We have the current athletic director at Virginia Union who has coached here at Virginia Union, won a couple of, I won't say a couple, he won championships. Let's just be vague with it. Won championships in the CIAA as head coach of Virginia Union. And that's Coach Joe Taylor joining us here on the show. Thanks, Coach, for joining us.
Well, Sean, it's always a pleasure, and certainly we appreciate all that you do. And in fact, ESPN is looking for.
It's on tape if you say this now, so make sure you guys are watching for that. How did you feel on Saturday after the game as a former coach? And I know your close relationship with Coach Parker. How was that on the sideline on Saturday for you?
Well, first of all, we were interviewed during the third quarter by HBCU Go, and I was telling them how geographically you talk about 30 miles apart, you talk about same household. One went to Union, one went to State. They don't talk that whole week.
Nope.
So it's a built-in natural rivalry. And I was not surprised that the audience, the attendance, and I was not surprised by the form of play, the level of play. A very exciting ball game. Certainly, you want to win them all, but unless there is some winning on both sides, it's not really a rivalry. And certainly we have had our success. Coach Frazier, we know wherever he's been, he's had success. So great atmosphere, great ball game. And as Coach said, we had our chances. When you're dropping short touchdowns, it showed a little bit maybe a lack of focus, but just an outstanding atmosphere. And it's good to be in postseason play.
Yep. Play for 11. That's the motto. They should just move the final from Salem instead of making that drive all the way. Just bring it back up to Richmond. Have it somewhere in Richmond on a neutral field. But you mentioned about the rivalry, and with this being the last one in Salem, I guess it seems like it's only fitting that the two Virginia schools meet in the final conference championship game in Salem this year.
Well, again, and they've done a great job of hosting. They had a lot of opportunities because I think a good friend of mine, Larry Karras, he was the head coach at Mount Union forever. And it was, I think, 14 straight D3 national championships. So they know how to host. They do a great job. And they are letting us know, even though it's leaving this year, next time the bid come around, they will put another bid in. And so certainly we appreciate. And then Sherman Lee, a graduate of Virginia Union, I think he had a lot to do with it coming there initially. So a great area, and it really should be good for them too, because when you talk about filling the stands, it's in close proximity to both universities. So it's going to be a little chilly, so make sure you put on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say long johns, but it's
Have the overcoat, some earmuffs, hand warmers.
It should be really a sold-out arena.
Yeah, a lot of people have been posting on social media. They were going to have some party buses to make the trip for both schools, State and Union, to go down there. You know what it's like this week preparing for a conference championship. Put us in the mind of a coach, and I'm going to ask Coach Parker as well when we have him back for our final segment. But for you, what was it like the week of a championship game?
Well, again, first of all, if you try to do anything different, I think that sends a wrong message to the players, because evidently what you are doing is good enough. And there's no magic in it. You don't go into the game trying to fool the opponent, outsmart the opponent. The team that wins is the team that blocks and tackles the best. And of course, you gotta not self-destruct. You gotta stay away from pre-snap penalties. You gotta stay out of your own way, I used to say. But the thing that you emphasize is that the team that makes the less mistakes and that's more physical, that's the team that's going to win.
And also you have a little luck along the way?
Well,
doesn't hurt?
Again, when hard work and opportunity meet, that's called luck.
Okay. For the last couple of years, you guys, have built this culture, this winning culture of being on a national brand, succeeding on a national brand, getting to the championship, making the postseason the last 2 years in the Division II playoffs. What has that been like on the campus of Union, where you've seen that success from the football team going from not a local and regional level, but now a national level where people really know about Virginia Union football?
Well, first of all, Sean, let me just say this. We're fortunate to have Coach Parker as our head football coach. It all starts with discipline. And I can be honest with you, when he came in, it really wasn't where it needed to be from a discipline standpoint. But I told a young man that they are really blessed that every day they have the opportunity to listen to a person who, first of all, understand what it takes to build men. Because when you have a blueprint for yourself, obviously you know what it takes to build others. And working with Coach has been a dream. And this was the vision. And because of the discipline that we see in this team, again, on and off the field, you know, last year I think we had the highest GPA with our football team in the conference. So it's been a joy to kind of, and you know, certainly being there, done that, you kind of have a feel for what it looks like. And I tell his players and his coaches, you all are just really fortunate because, again, knowing what it should look like, I really see it. And what you see now in terms of the consistency, because I tell people, you know, it's easier to get there than it is to stay there because there's a tendency to forget what got you there. And I always use a little term, you know, a little fat between the ears. But from week in to week out, you see consistency. And to be a champion on game day, you have to practice being a champion all week. And I see that in his overall itinerary, his daily routine. He doesn't get too high, not too low, but consistency. And to the point where when young men trust you and they are having a good experience, they show you on game day.
Coach, well said. Well said. We appreciate the time, as always, joining us on the show. And I'll see you down there in Salem, all bundled up.
Back in 1990, when I was the head coach, the last game of the year was against Winston-Salem.
Them Rams.
Down in
Bowman Gray?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
And we were 10-0, and that was the last game of the regular season. The very next week we had to play. They came here, and it was for the championship, and we had just beat them, but they came up here and beat us the next week. So you never know, you know. But again, that's happened before. History has a way of repeating itself.
We'll see if that history repeats itself on Saturday down at Salem Stadium for the conference championship. Thanks again, as always, Coach. And like I said, I'll see you down there on Saturday.
Thanks so much. And again, thanks for all that you do.
Appreciate it, Coach. We'll hear from Coach Parker as we will talk VUU VSU for the CIAA championship on Saturday, right after this on the Alvin Parker Coaches Show.
For some people, university is just another series of classrooms. For others, it's about finding purpose and value as you define what will be your life's work. But when you step foot here, in this place, that's when you find your life's work colliding with legacy to produce an educational experience reaching deeper than you ever thought possible. It's more than books, more than classrooms, more than papers or exams. Virginia Union University is a place where you discover the power of a limitless future.
All right, back for our final segment on the Alvin Parker Coaches Show. Again, big thanks to Coach Joe Taylor for joining us. He had that coach's mentality, man. I mean, he just was pulling pearls of wisdom like he was back on the sideline again, talking about old Virginia Union teams and going back.
I get it every day. So, you know, and I love it, you know. So the blueprint, you know, he talked about, you know, me having a blueprint, but a lot of the stuff and a lot of the ways I kind of sat back and, you know, even watched him just being a younger coach. You know, and kind of seeing all the great things he had done at all the different places he did it. You know, so, you know, these championships, these few that we might have got when I was here, you know, don't speak to those, you know, so definitely.
And one of the things he said, and you talked about it week after week on this show, we don't get too high, we don't get too low, and we don't change anything that got us to the dance. And I'm assuming same thing applies this week. We're not going to change anything that we've been doing up to this point, even though we're seeing Virginia State for the second time in as many weeks.
dance with the girl you brought to the
There
party.
you go.
It's kind of that, for us, but in a sense, when you look at kind of some of the things you've done all year, like so you take that inventory of everything from week 0 up until now, for the most part, I think these guys have played and done things the way we need them to do it. You look at some of the stats and some of the numbers. It's probably the first time, in my career where we've led the league in rushing and passing. We've led it in either one or the other probably since I've been here, but deleted in both. And that kind of came from a lot of people probably saying, well, you can't do this on offense, you can't do this on defense, and things like that. And of course we stuck to running the ball like we normally do, but we show everybody we can throw it around when need be, and to the tune, like I said, leading the conference and leading the nation in pass efficiency and all of those type of things like that. So I think for the most part, my ball club has pretty much done what we've asked them. But like I say, when you get to a championship game, you can kind of throw a lot of stuff out the window because it's for all the marbles for both teams. And that's what we kind of expecting.
Going back to that stat, what does that say about the quarterback room? I remember we had Mark and RJ both in our player lounge segment a few weeks ago, and just having that mindset of, RJ was a starter, then Mark had to come in, when he was injured and played so well that he didn't give up the job, and yet there was no division, there was no issues between the two, and then he has a great season, like you said, leading the CIAA in passing.
Yeah, I mean it just speaks to the level of everybody because not just one person necessarily go into that, and it's a level of preparation you got to have. It's a level of study you got to have. It's a level of everybody kind of being on the same page you got to have, for something like that to be even come to fruition. But it was something as a staff the year before we wanted to make sure we got better at. Not necessarily putting ourselves in position to be run and gun, run and shoot type of offense, but in a position to make sure we can run it when we want to and we can throw it when we want to. And I think the numbers have said we've been able to do that.
Did the experience of last year's postseason turn that mindset around? Like, okay, we are a physical running team, but when you have to go up north, sometimes you do have to put the ball in the air, and we got to have that ability to be a multi-dimensional type team should we make it back to the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing that the postseason does for you, nobody ever goes to the postseason and play somebody else that's not worthy. So you get a chance to kind of stack your team up against something else or somebody else to kind of see, the things that, we're pretty good at this or we need to get a little better at that. And I think the postseason kind of shows you that, it's not going to be a lot of teams that's going to be playing this week. It's not going to be a lot of teams that's going to play next week. And I think from this point on out, you earn the right to practice. So, a lot of people say, yeah, it's going to be cold, it's going to be this, but you earn the right to practice in that cold weather and to kind of keep your season going. And a lot of those things come from kind of just like I said all the time, taking inventory of what you got to do and what you got to get better at. And from seasons beginning to seasons getting closer to the end now, I think we've done that. And all the things we wanted to get better at, we've gotten better at.
How big or how important was the fact that you just played State this week as opposed to saying if you played them in week 4 to get ready to see them again for a conference championship?
I think sometimes when you look at a team earlier in the season, you might not get that same type of team. Football is one of those sports that it gets a little violent sometimes, a little tough sometimes. So a lot of things rely on depth. So you got to have some good depth to be able to keep good guys in there and keep them in the fold. So you can very well not be the same team that you are in week 4 that you are in week 11. So a lot of those kind of rely on it, and that's some of the things that you got to look at. And then people get better. As the weeks go along, people have they got coaches that do their job and have those guys prepared. And every week, everything just seems to get a little bit better from week 4, like you said, to maybe like a week 11. So, you got to account for that as well.
We also talked during your media availability this week about the championship experience. You guys just was in this title game a year ago. You kind of know the lay of the land, getting ready for the title game. How much is that going to play a role in preparation and the fact that, they didn't make it as, it's obviously a big deal, a big stage, but not making it too big and making it just, hey, it's another game on our schedule, but the stakes are higher, but we got to make it just another game.
To have so many kids that went last year, that makes it a little easier. It was almost like flipping out the same itinerary and just changing the date, but, I think we have a lot of guys that have the experience of being there, but I think this year, and Coach mentioned it, getting to the championship is one thing, but trying to stay there is an entirely different thing. It's tough. I mean, I think our kids experienced that this year, kind of coming in the season, and you're going to get everybody's best when you're the champions. And we were labeled as the champions coming into the season. So I believe we got everybody's best, and that's rightfully so. It's just what it is, and we don't run away from that, but I think that's the difference, and then you got to make sure you do everything to kind of put yourself in a position where you can go back. And I think like our staff, support staff, our administration, everybody that's involved with Virginia Union and Panther football, did their part, and that has to happen. Championships just don't necessarily come from, throwing a touchdown or doing this or doing that. It has to be a total overall commitment. And I think, from the university standpoint and all the people I mentioned, before, it's been a total university commitment, to getting us back to this championship. So, we're ready to play for 11.
There you go. And the caravan is all set. They're going to be heading down to Salem later this week. They're going to have some things to take care of. I think some television opportunities to take care of. I believe there's going to be an event for community service event as well. So if you can't make it down there for Salem for whatever reason, game is going to be also on television. HBCU Go will air it on Saturday. Kickoff is right around 3 o'clock, 3:05. And we'll be back hopefully next week to talk about the win and also the playoffs, because should Union win that game on Saturday, they'll win the championship and most likely make the NCAA Division II tournament field for the third year in a row. So for Coach Parker and also for Coach Joe Taylor and for our entire staff behind the scenes making us look good, I'm Sean Robertson. Hopefully we'll talk to you next week on another edition of the Alvin Parker Coaches Show.